Hey sixth graders, this is lesson 7-8. We are talking all about percent today. Now percent is this symbol. Sometimes you see people write it with that little line up there. Sometimes you just see this, okay? They mean the same thing. Percent, just like the book says, means out of 100. Or it can mean for each 100, okay? So the symbol looks like this. So here's a couple examples. 37% is red, 37%. That's how you say it. When you see the number next to this symbol, the way you read it is like this, 37%. It can mean the fraction 37 out of 100. It can mean the ratio 37 to 100, or it can mean the rate 37 per 100. All of those mean the same thing. So a good way to think about percents is relating it to 100. That's why in class, when we talk about grades and we say the goal is to get 100% if you want perfect, that's because percent is always about how many out of 100 can you get. And the best score would be 100 out of 100, okay? So we're going to practice that a little bit with a picture here. So this is a little story or a scenario that says the fans at a sold-out concert are in 100 equal sections of seats. Each small rectangle in the diagram represents one section of fans. So this is everybody at the concert. Each one of those tiny little circles represents fans or people that are excited to be at the concert, okay? And they're in tiny little sections. So what the directions tell us first is to color one section blue right here. All right, now there's 100 equal sections on this whole thing. So what fraction of the fans is this? If we color one of them blue, 1 out of 100. What percent of fans is this? Well, 1 out of 100 is the same as 1%. Number 2, color 3 sections red. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So if those 3 sections are red, what fraction of the fans is this? 3 out of 100. What percent of the fans is this? 3%, because anything out of 100 is the percent. Number 3, color 23% of the sections green. All right. So I'm going to color 23%. All right. Well, 23% is the same as the fraction 23 out of 100. So I'm going to go ahead and color in 23 of these. 1, 2, 3. And to make it easier on myself, since these are in rows of 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm going to get a bigger marker and say, there's my 3, here's 10, here's 20, okay, and then the 3 right there. So how many are there? 23% are green, which is 23 out of 100, the fraction. Now color 37% of the sections yellow. And what fraction of the fans is that? Well, 37% is the same as 37 out of 100. So I'm going to go ahead and color my 37. I will use a bigger marker to get my 30. So 10 going this way, 20, 30, and then these are still empty, so I'm going to catch these ones. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. All right, so I feel like that's still a little bit light. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 10, 20, 30. All right, so now it says shade some sections in purple. Okay, what percent did you shade? Oh, so I just get to pick whatever I want here. Some in purple. Okay, I'm gonna do this little corner right here. And why not? I'll just go up all the way here. All right, So this was, how many did I do in purple? 3, 6, 9, 12. So what percent did I shade? I did, if there's 12 of them shaded, the percent is 12% purple. All right, well, hopefully that first section makes sense to you guys. Let's go ahead and turn the page. What it says is the bars in these next exercises are divided into 100 equal parts. First, shade 5% of the bar. All right, so I'm going to shade 5%. Well, I can tell that this is broken into these little tiny ones. There's probably 100 of them in there because I can see individually there's 10 little black chunks that it's broken into. So each of those little black lines has 10 little sections in it. So I'm going to go and shade 5%, which is 5 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5% of the bar. Now shade 15% of the bar. Okay, well, I can do this quickly by knowing that this first section to the black mark is 10, and then I can do 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm being careful that I'm counting them correctly. Now shade 45% of the bar. Okay, so each of these 10% marks right here is 10. So I'm going to go 10, 20, 30, 40. Then I have to be a little more careful. 41, 42, 43, 44. There's 45% right there. Shade 85%. Oh, wow, this is getting to be a lot. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Here's 80, and it's 85%. So 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. Notice that I'm kind of sloppy, and then I get really careful at the end there because I have to be more precise when I get close to my final answer. Okay, label each section with the percent of the whole bar it represents. Under each section, write the fraction that it represents. All right, well, I can see right here that this bar, if the whole thing represents a whole, then it's broken into 2 equal pieces. So each one is a half, or we could say 50% and 50%. My 5 looked kind of weird. That way you have 50 plus 50 equals 100. All right, on bar B, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Yeah, that looked like 10. That's why I started counting by tens. These are each worth 10%. Okay, so if you count by tens, you can see that you'll get to 100. That means that each piece of this bar is worth the fraction 1/10. Each of these values is 1/10. Okay, bar C says we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we're sharing 100 with 5 equal chunks, well, I know that if I share 100 with 10 chunks, each one is 10. So if I split that in half, each one is probably worth 20 because the value is going to double. Let's see if that will work. 20, another 20 is 40, another 20 is 60, another 20 is 80, and another 20 is 100. Perfect. So these are all showing 1/5, and they are each worth 20%. And in our last example, we have bar D, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this reminds me of money. Counting with quarters. I have 4 quarters and $1, which means that if this is out of 100, split into 4 equal chunks, they are all worth 25%, just like 25 cents. So these are all worth 1/4 of the total. Now we can't forget 11, 12, and 13. They're down here at the bottom of the page. They kind of blend in. Number 11 says shade 70% of bar B. So Barbie, that sounds funny. I didn't catch that before. It's like the toy Barbie. Okay, shade 70% of bar B. So we're going to shade 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. All right, that's number 11. Number 12 is shade 60% of bar C. 20, 40, 60. Shade 75%, a bar D. 25, 50, 75. So notice when I'm shading these, I'm just counting, skip counting by the number of percents that I put in each one of those bars. All right, going quickly through this lesson. Number 14 on our next page. Label each long tick mark with a decimal, a percent, and a fraction with a denominator of 10. If the fraction can be simplified, then write the simplified form as well. Okay, so each long tick mark, that's what these black ones are. So they've already done the first ones for us. And I can follow the pattern here and see that on the bottom it's going by percent. So I'm going to continue. 0%, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, and 100%. Now I can do the decimals. Okay, so the decimals, they put 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 1 or 1.0. And if you guys notice, each one of these could be written with another 0 behind it. So instead of 0.3, it would not change its value to say 0.30. And then you could say, oh wow, that does look like 30%. Okay. All right. So right here they wrote it with tenths. 0.1 is the same as 1/10 because we know in decimals, instead of saying 0.1, the mathematical way to say that is 1/10, which is how the fraction looks. 2/10. This is 3/10 because I see that this whole thing is broken up into 10 equal pieces, 10 fractions, or 10 parts of a whole fraction, and this is the third part. This is the fourth part of the fraction, or 4/10. 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and then we can put 10/10. 10/10 is the same as a whole, so we could just put 1. All right, on our next level, we've got, can you simplify any of these fractions? And yes, we can simplify a few of them. 3/10 is as simple as it goes. 4/10, I can divide both of them by 2, our numerator and our denominator, and end up with 2/5. 5/10, it simplifies to 1/2. 6/10, if I divide both of them by 2, I end up with 3/5. 7/10 does not simplify. 8/10, if I divide both of them by 2, simplifies to 4/5. 9/10 does not simplify, and 10/10 already simplifies to a whole or just the number 1, which we already wrote down here. So that's what they wanted us to do in number 14. Why? Because what we're looking at is this tick mark right here at, let's say, at the 60% mark. There's so many ways to define this value. You can look at this tick mark and say this is 60% of the bar, or it is 0.6 across the bar, or it is 6/10 the fraction across the bar, or if we simplify that, it's 3/5 across the bar. There are so many ways to look at this number, look at this spot on the bar and define its spot with a number. So that's why they're having us do this. It's looking at equivalence. What is more than one way to say the same thing? We're going to do a similar activity in this chart. It's just instead of looking at the visual of the bar and having the pattern of the bar, these are all mixed up. So we're going to be looking at equivalence with percents and fractions and decimals. How are all of these numbers the same, written in different ways? How do you write it as a percent, as a fraction, and as a decimal? So for the first one, they wrote 83%. That's the same thing as 83 over 100, which is the same as 0.83. So 51% is like 51 over 100, which is like 0.51. 46%, 46 over 100, it's like 0.46. 6%. This gets a little tricky, but it's the same thing. A fraction, when you're talking about percent, just means over 100. So 6 over 100. Be careful when you write this as a decimal. Please don't write this as 0.6. okay? This is 0.06. This goes back to your 4th grade math lessons when you go, oh, 0.6, the way we say that is 6/10, which is the same as 60 100ths, which is what this next problem is. 60% is 60 over 100, which is 0.6, which is the same as 0.60, okay? You have to be careful the difference between 6% and 60%. Just like in decimals, you have to be careful the difference between 0.06 and 0.6 and 0.60. They all seem very similar, but some of them are equivalent and some of them are not. Okay, so then we've got 27%, which is the same as 27 over 100, or 0.27. Now they give us a clue here on this next one. How do you do something greater than 100? If you have 127%, that means you have simply 127 over 100. It means you have greater than a whole. So as a decimal, what that looks like is a whole and then 0.27. And the reason that is because if you took this fraction and you made it as a mixed number, it would be 1 whole and 27 hundredths. And the way we would write that is 1.27. Okay, so this should be stuff you already know from 4th and 5th grade decimals. It's just adding the element of what does it look like as a percent. And this is what it looks like, is 127%. Okay, so the difference between 3% and 30%, 3% is 3 100ths, which is 0.03, and 30% is 30 100ths, which is 0.30. And another way you could write 0.30 is 0.3. Just like 0.60, another way you could have written that is 0.6. Okay, so in decimals, the 0 that comes after it doesn't matter. It's the 0 that comes before it that matters. All right, and our last one, 130%, that's 130 over 100. And the way we write that as a decimal is 1.30. Or you could write it as 1.3. That would be the same thing. Notice that all of the fractions have a 100. That's because that's what percent is. It's comparing your number to the fraction 100. Okay? Then it says, place all these percents and decimals on the number line down here. So what we need to do is start with 83%. Where would 83% be on this number line? Well, these are broken up by tens. So I'm going to count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 right here. And then I can go, if this is the 80 mark, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 after that. So right here is 83%. And then on the top, it says write it as a percent and a decimal. So I'm going to say that right here as a decimal is 0.83. Okay, so we did this one. Let's do 51%. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Yes, I got confused for a second. The reason I did that twice is because I was thinking that is 50 should be half, and I'm like, that is not halfway through the line. But then I realized that the whole, the 100, is right here, and then it goes beyond that. So it is halfway to the whole. It just confused my brain for a second because it didn't look like half. Okay, so this is the 50%, but we want 51. So we want 1 past that. 51%, which is 0.51. All right, then we got 46%. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. These look so tiny. And this is 46%. All the way up is 0.46. 6% is going to be right here. Here's 10, so it's less than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have 6% down below and 0.06 up above. 60%, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It's on this black line that's already here, which is 60% and 0.60. 27%, 10, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 is right here. If you would rather count to 30% and then go backwards to 27, you can do that too. 127% is going to be all the way over here, past 100, 110, 120, 121, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So this right here is 127%, and as a decimal, 1.27. 3%, that's all the way down here. It's tiny. 1, 2, 3. 0.03. 30%. 10, 20, 30. I don't have enough space to write. That's why some of these are shooting up higher and lower than others. And our last one is 130%. So we have 100% right here, 110%, 120%, and 130%, which can be written as 1.30 or 1.3. All right, so hopefully, again, you're seeing kind of how those numbers relate to each other on a line and how decimals and percents are all connected. All right, so our last page here, we have a puzzle penguin mistake. And this is actually what we were just talking about in our last set of problems. It says, "Dear math students, I said that 7% is 0.7, but my friend said that I am not right. Why not? Please help me understand how percents and decimals are related. Thank you, Puzzled Penguin." Okay, well, he said 7% is equal to 0.7. Now, we know that Puzzle Penguin always makes mistakes, that kids make a lot. And this is not true. It's actually not equal, okay? And the reason why that we can explain is because 7% can be written as 7 out of 100. Remember, when you're working with the percent, it's always out of 100. And how do we write the decimal 7/100ths? It's 0.07, not 0.7. So that's the mistake that he made. It should have been 0.07 instead of 0.7. So there's my response to him, is right there. All right, our last section says, what percent of the figure is shaded? All right, how are we supposed to figure out percents when these are not all equal parts like they were in this page? Okay, well, they give you what one kid's reasoning is, and I think that will help you. So here's a picture. We need to figure out what percent is shaded. Katie says, well, this part right here is half, so that's 50%. And then these 5 parts make up another 50%. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the other 50. So they're 10% each. Okay, so she says this part has to be 50 because it's half, and these are all 10, 10, 10, 10, and 10 because those all make up the other 50, and 50 divided by 5 is 10. So how much is this all together that's shaded? 50 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, which would be 50 plus 40 equals 90. So the percent of this one is 90. Number 18. How many equal parts are here in the whole? Well, that whole has 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So how much is each one worth? 25%. Just like 4 quarters and $1, we have 4 chunks, or 25% chunks in a whole. So what part is shaded? 25 plus 25 plus 25, which is 75%. Number 19. We're going to use Katie's reasoning like she did on number 17. We're going to use that on number 19. We're going to say that all of this is 50% because I can see the halfway point, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is worth 10, 10, 10, 10%, but this one is split into 2. So if this whole thing is 10%, that means that this one must be 5%, and this one must be 5%. So what is shaded? 10, another 10, another 10, another 10, and a 5. So 10, 20, 30, 40, and 5, which is 45% is shaded. All right, last problem. This is split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, which means they are 20% each. And I know that because we did that on this last page. 5 sections, and 1/5, when it was broken into fifths, they were all 20%. So this is 20, 20, 20. But this block of 20 is broken into 2 equal pieces. So they must be 10 and 10. So what part is shaded? 20 plus 20 plus 20, plus we have another one that is 10. So 20, 40, 60, one more is, or 10 more would be 70% shaded. All right, that is the end of this lesson. It's kind of just connecting fractions and percents and decimals and showing them in a visual way. We're going to be working with percents as we move on throughout the rest of this week. All right, thanks guys.